Good evening and welcome to Pop Go the Writers, Easter
I
edition.
have to say something real quick here, folks. Never ever have Dan tell you about his real life adventures with an ex porn star, because right in the middle of it he'll say something like, "Oh, we got to do the show. Sorry."
Okay, I got to tell this story now. Nothing to do with my ex porn star friend. This was before I started working for Bleeding Cool many years ago.
Mm.
Rich Johnston, who is the big guy over at Bleeding Cool, posted saying, "Hey, is there anybody in the Southern California area who would be willing to go and cover an event for us? It's kind of an interesting event that may not appeal to everybody."
Mhm.
Well, I responded. I said, "Yeah, I'm in the area. What do you need?" And he said, "They're doing a press day for a Supergirl porn parody." I said, "Oh, okay." He says, "And we'd like you to go and just ask some questions, do some interviews, and whatnot." And I went, "Okay, sure. What the hell?" And porn parodies were really big at the time. They really took off.
There was a lot of them. There was a Batman 66 one
Uh
in
huh.
particular. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. So I get a call in the day, and it turns out I can't go. So I tell him, I said, I just can't. He goes, "Oh, well, we're not going to worry about it." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." And then the following week, I get a call from the studio or whatever it is that's making this movie. They said, "We really were disappointed that Bleeding Cool wasn't there. We were wondering if you'd be available to come up this week." I said, "Well, I thought you were just doing a 1 day press event." They said, "Yeah, but Bleeding Cool is important to us. So we'd be, if you want to come up, hang out on the set while we're filming, talk to some of the actresses and stuff.
God,
It would be great." And I said,
I don't
"Well,"
know how I'd feel about that.
I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I get this address, and it's up there in Simi Valley, where all the pornos are made. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I'm supposed to use that word. I'm supposed to say something other, because I think that but we don't, we, we're not monetized. So it's not going to, like, we're going to lose our monetization.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah, what could we lose?
yeah. So I go, and it's hard to find this house because this house, there's this dead end street, and all of the addresses, it doesn't make sense because they're just kind of stacked. And then I realized there's one driveway that goes up and around behind the other houses.
Hmm.
And there's two houses back there. So I have to drive up this steep hill and around and to the top. And I get up there,
Hmm.
and I start, and it's like, sure enough, there's the house all the way up in the back.
Hmm.
Well, as the day progresses, so many people show up that my truck is buried.
Oh, yeah.
So I end up on the set of this film from,
Production.
I want to say I got there about 10 a.m. and I left at 1 a.m.
Oh my God.
Okay. So a lot happened in that day.
Yeah, but wow. I mean, did you help out during filming?
A little bit. I mean, I did interview a bunch of models, which was awesome, or some
Uh-huh.
actresses. Excuse me, actresses.
Uh-huh.
Um, they told me that I was free to video any of the scenes I wanted, and I got to tell you, it gets boring.
I've heard that. Yes, I've
But
heard
what's
that.
worse is that they were shooting in this one atrium area, and then there was the kitchen. There was a rented house. Somebody loans out this house for these movies. And I'm sitting in the kitchen area, and what's happening around the corner is a very large group of people are engaged in activities.
Hmm.
There are two men and about 12 women.
Hmm.
And I did video some footage,
Mm-hmm.
but I got bored. So I went to the kitchen. I sat down. I found myself something from the drink thing and
Yeah, I mean,
was talking to some.
how many times can you watch that? I mean,
Yeah. But I will tell you that when you're not watching it,
mm,
that many people, and it's probably more because it's a simulated scene. I
eh,
mean, some's
oh,
going on, but some's, they're
oh,
acting. It sounded like either a swarm of bees or a zombie invasion. Yeah, It is the most disturbing sound to listen to from around the corner out of sight.
uh-huh, uh-huh, mm-hmm.
The other thing that happened is one particular actress was walking through the kitchen, and the kitchen had been tiled with these big tiles that had grout lines, but the grout lines were kind of sunken a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not great for walking on.
Mm-hmm.
And this one particular actress, I won't say her full name, but she is well known in the industry. Her first name is India.
Mm.
And as she's walking through the kitchen towards the backyard, I think maybe to go outside, have a smoke or something, her high heel hits it
Mm.
and she starts to trip, falling forward. Now I'm on a bar stool
Mm.
against the kitchen counter. So I swing around, see this, reach out my arm, catch her, and pull her back up into me. Again, super suave move I could never have done on purpose.
And with a porn star.
With a porn
Yeah,
star.
add that part in too,
With a naked porn star.
Oh my God.
Now, I am not okay. So I've got her, but I start to release her, and she's not stepping back. And she's like looking at me. She goes, "Oh my God, thank you." I went, "Oh, you're very welcome." And she just kind of lingered there for a minute. I'm like, "All right." And then finally, she goes about her business, and it was a nice little moment. And she'd wave to me every time she walked by, and would show that she was walking very, very carefully.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then later in the evening, everybody is starting to leave,
Uh-huh.
but she's still got work to do. So, and there's grips and stuff, grips on that kind of movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
They're
gonna say.
moving the cars around to
Mm-hmm.
let people get out so they can leave. And she knows that they're eventually going to come to get her car because she was one of the last to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
So she walks up, hands me her car keys, and says, "Here, you're the only one here I trust with these."
Yeah, I trust you with my life.
Yes. So it was a very interesting thing that ended with me finally leaving at 1 a.m. And there's not enough room up there for me to turn the truck around. So I have to back down this windy road in the dark. And I
Ooh.
do end up scraping up the side of my truck on a telephone pole. It's like the only scratch I have on that vehicle.
Ooh. Okay, what does this have to do with Supergirl?
The Supergirl was very nice. The Batgirl they had in the series was also very nice.
Okay.
I didn't get to see them in costume because the shoot they were doing didn't involve any costumes. Um,
This could write itself, I mean, I
yep.
could.
So I run into Raven Gregory a few weeks later, and he's picking at me. He goes, "Hey, I hear you were on the set of an adult film, huh? Yeah, right, sure. He's
Mhm.
making these stories up." And I went, held my phone up to him, shocked look on his face, eyes huge. He spent the next part of that whole, because it was at Phoenix Con that weekend. He spent the entire time of that Phoenix Con walking up with other people going, "He's got porn on his phone from a real
Yeah.
film. He was there."
What would be the point of taking video of that?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
in a professional sense.
I don't know. But I
Okay.
will tell you this,
Yeah.
that the company that made that movie got their costumes in a very unique way.
Mm.
They would go to Comic Cons and find cosplayers and offer to buy the costumes off of them.
Oh, there's somebody's being very clever. I thought you were going to say that they would hire the cosplayers.
No, no, no. And I think
Yeah.
they probably did eventually. And then
Yeah.
they would alter it like Supergirl's logo was actually just a giant X.
Yeah,
Or
right, sure.
might have been three X's. I don't remember, but
Yeah, sure. Wow.
so yeah,
Wow.
that was my first experience working for Bleeding Cool. They hired me like a year and a half later for full time.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in to our Easter story. He is risen.
You don't want to say that after that conversation.
Yes, I did. That's why I said it. Come on, Dan. I'm clever too.
So, by the way, we do want to acknowledge the sad passing of Chance Perdomo, star of Gen V. Also was in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, a 27-year-old actor who was really just in the start of his career, was about to start on season 2 of Gen V, and passed away in a motorcycle accident over the weekend. And sorry to go into a very sad story there, but I did want to point that out and mention it. The work on Gen V season 2 has been halted for now because they have to look at either recasting or rewriting to deal with this actor's passing. And also they're probably not in any condition to move forward with that much of a loss. So my thoughts go out to them and also his family and his friends and stuff. So okay, so it is Easter, and we've kind of changed things up with the way we've been doing things the last few shows. We've been more focused on a single question. And part of the fun of that is I don't tell Jim the question before we do the show.
I guess not. Sometimes.
Sometimes I do.
Okay.
Now, I did joke around that last week we could do talk about characters that have come back from the dead.
Yeah, that's true. And I didn't do my research, damn it.
That's okay. We're not going to talk about that.
Oh, okay, good.
A couple weeks ago, well, I think it was actually the end of January, so it's been a few more than a couple. I did a thing where I looked at the Batman and broke it down as a classic film noir, and I did that on my show. This week, the trailer for The Penguin came out. The new series that spins off of it. And my show, what I did was I looked at it as a classic gangster story. All the elements that are in a gangster movie or a gangster series. And I said that it does hold up well when you compare it to something like The Sopranos. It has a lot of the elements you would expect.
Oh, I mean, without knowing much about The Sopranos, to me, it looks like that's the vibe,
Yeah.
That they want.
I even joked that if you played A3's Woke This Morning over that trailer, you're just going to think Tony Soprano sitting there instead of Oswald Cobblepot.
I would venture to say the Penguin has been reinvented more than any other, Bat villain or any super villain, in comics that, it's like almost a completely different character now.
Well, I think that's a lot of the Batman villains from the early days, because they were introduced and it was their gimmick, the reason they were introduced, but there was never really anything behind them.
Yeah, that's true.
And it wasn't until the 50s and 60s that they started. I mean, both the Penguin came back, and then 2 months later, the Riddler came back. And then shortly after that, they did the Batman 96 series. Prior to that, neither one had been seen in like 15 or 20 years.
Yeah. But as far as the Penguin goes, he's like, there's the shtick is gone. I mean,
Yeah.
the Riddler still tells riddles. Catwoman still is like a cat. The Joker is the Joker, but with more killing. But the Penguin is this whole thing, and this is, I say this like it's recent, but it's been forever now. He's the owner of the Iceberg Lounge, in the comics,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's more like an organized crime boss, although he acts like he's legitimate.
Yeah.
But I mean, he might actually carry an umbrella, but there's no theme anymore about things that the umbrella does or anything like that at all. So that's why I say I think he's been kind of reimagined more so than most other ones.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because they would do these colorful characters, and then they would try to do mob bosses, Salvatore Moroni and
Yeah, there's
Carmine
a lot of
Falcone.
mob bosses in Batman. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, well, we've got one guy that would fit in there, so they moved him into that role, and it
Mhm.
makes sense. It was the mid '90s when they introduced the Iceberg Lounge,
Mhm.
and it does make sense. But
Sometimes I miss the old gimmicks.
yeah, the aviary and all the bird stuff.
Especially the trick umbrellas,
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice to have at least a nod to in the Batman the movie. Is there anything with umbrellas at all with the character? Yeah.
No,
Okay,
no.
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Why
Now,
is he called the Penguin?
it's the way he walks and his bird-like nose
Oh, okay.
because he waddles.
He waddles. Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, hell, you go back to here's a little sports reference for you. You go back to the mid to late '70s of the Los Angeles Dodgers. They had a third baseman named Ron Say, who had this funny little gait when he ran that made it look like he waddled, and of course, his nickname became
The Penguin, right?
the Penguin. He was yes,
Generally, it's supposed to be like, he wears a tuxedo, that's why he looks like a penguin. But
yeah. Well, and in the mob world, they always give everybody weird nicknames anyway.
yeah, right. Yep. I get you.
Yeah,
Oh,
at least
oh,
they
but hey,
were.
before I forget, happy 85th birthday, Batman.
That's right. That was yesterday, right?
Right? Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but that's not the topic we're doing today. Now, I did in my notes. I did notice a big difference between Colin Farrell's Penguin and Danny DeVito's Penguin. Is that Danny DeVito's Penguin could never have led his own series. He was made out to be gross,
Mm-hmm.
unappealing, where Farrell's, has got this kind of charm, that Tony Soprano like charm, where when
Hmm.
he's on the screen, you're like, hey, who's this guy? And yeah, he's going to do horrible things, but you're going to want to see what he does next. And you
Mm-hmm.
need that for someone who's going to run his own series. You wouldn't have gotten that with Danny DeVito's version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ed says the only thing I noticed was the waddle, especially when he was tied up and yelling at Batman and Gordon. Just kind of sort of looked and sounded like a classic Penguin. Yeah, but they do also bring the tip of his nose out to look a little beak-like.
Was there? Did you feel there was any connection between him and the guy who played it on Gotham?
Similar. Their
Okay.
approach to it is similar. Robin Lord Taylor was fantastic on Gotham.
Yeah, my wife loved him on that.
Yeah, I even got to interview him once,
Wow.
and he really understood the character. He really got him from a myth, an ethos.
Mm-hmm.
He really got the understanding of the character without, having to do the gimmicks. And I think that's one of the things they did well on Gotham is they brought in the gimmicks just enough
Mm-hmm.
without making it seem ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The Riddler was the same way.
Yep. Yep.
Both of those actors did a remarkable job
Yeah.
pulling those characters off. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, Robin Lord Taylor was great as the Penguin. I watched Farrell's makeup test where they did or put all the makeup on him to become, and That is so much work to end up looking just like Richard Kind. Like you could have just hired Richard Kind. He's a good actor. But it's amazing how you lose Farrell in there. His performance, the makeup and stuff. You would be hard pressed. I mean, this is a good-looking guy with a heavy Irish accent, and you don't see any of that.
So I've heard. Yep. So I've heard.
So, but that's not the topic we have.
There is a topic in here somewhere, folks.
Yeah. And my topic is, to me, superheroes are not a genre.
Okay.
But you look up genres, they will list it. Actually, they list it as a subgenre under adventure. And I look at that and I'm like, I don't think that's true. I don't think superhero being a genre is any more legitimate as police being a genre. I mean, look at police films or cop films.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a handful of cop films here. Die Hard.
Yep.
Police Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Training Day.
Mm-hmm.
3 very different movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, you picked 3 very different ones, right?
Right. They're all about cops.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But are they the same genre? Would you put them next to each other? Dirty Harry is another one.
Some of them, I don't know if I'd stick the comedy in there.
Right.
You know.
But my point is that them being a cop doesn't make it a genre.
Well, that's why we have subgenres, though, I guess.
Right, but is cop a subgenre?
I would say yes. Yes.
So Police Academy and Training Day belong in the same subgenre?
No, we have to create more. We have to have police comedy.
But that's the point. Is it's still a comedy without them being police.
You know,
well, Training Day is still a drama. You know.
Well, okay, wait. Is comic book adaptation a genre then?
I wouldn't think so either, because I wouldn't put Road to Perdition and A History of Violence in the same category as Scott Pilgrim.
I have noticed that there are people and places that tend to do that, to lump, if it's a comic book adaptation, no matter what it is, lump it together, like put something like that along with one of the Marvel, with Captain America, First Avenger, or something like that. Well, I mean, there's a really good, is Captain America, the First Avenger, a superhero movie?
See, to me, it's a war movie.
Yeah, it's a war movie with with a super soldier. I mean, I guess. Yeah,
right, but he's using a gun.
Yeah.
It's a World War II period piece.
Yeah.
That just happened to have a superhero in it.
Yeah. Well, it's not even sort of that. It has a soldier in it. What he is doing is soldiering for the most part, I mean, but although we in the outside world consider Captain America to be a superhero, but he becomes one when he wakes up in the modern day,
right? But it's not a war anymore. He's still a soldier. Mm-hmm, he's still working for SHIELD or for the Avengers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's what's really interesting about the Marvel universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, Captain America, is that he's almost always working for somebody. I mean, he does finally go, solo, but that they have him, he wakes up and he's an agent of SHIELD now, which is appropriate, I guess.
Yeah.
So that is very interesting, and that's that sort of idea of we can't have a straightforward superhero film. It always has to be somehow more integrated into the real world. I mean, the closest that they get really in the Marvel movies is Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
I'm gonna debate you on that.
Oh, okay. Because he's the only one with a secret identity, and he's the only one who really puts on a uniform, puts on a costume, and has a name, and goes out and fights crime. It's hard to really do that with any of the other Marvel characters.
Yeah, but they're also basically John Hughes romantic comedies. Even the director, John Watts, said that's what he was making. They're high school coming of age romantic comedies.
With a superhero.
With a superhero.
Oh, I thought you were saying that Spider-Man is not represented as a superhero in the movies. Okay.
But my point is that superhero shouldn't be considered a genre. Because, okay, I'm gonna do this. Marvel Studios has had a lot of success. And every Marvel movie you look at, you can go, okay, Iron Man is kind of a sci-fi action film.
Yeah.
Thor was high fantasy in a lot of ways, but it had its low fantasy elements too. Guardians of the Galaxy is a space opera in the same way Star Wars is.
Yeah. Well, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness is they said, oh, it's like a horror film, like the Marvel Universe. It now has a horror film, especially considering the director.
Both Doctor Strange movies were directed by horror directors. They had horror-like elements in it. And then if you go back to the first Hulk movie, the opening was totally horror. We never saw the Hulk for the longest time.
Yeah.
Especially in where they're chasing him through the warehouse.
Yeah.
So
you know what I think? You know what I think part of this is that, again, it's because it's Marvel, and Marvel was a different kind of company. The world outside your window idea, and I think that's why okay. So if you don't. What do you place them all as? Can you place them all as just action movies or adventure movies or not?
No, because I don't think Marvel is making singular genre movies.
Okay.
That's my point I'm getting at. Is that they look at each movie and decide what it is on its own. And a heist movie.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah. And the reason I think people had a hard time with Quantumania is it was no longer a heist movie. If they would have changed the plot on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, if it turned out that what they needed was that device, it wasn't Kang pulled them in. If it was they needed to find get that device to get home, and they had to go up against Kang, who uses it as a power source, then you'd still have the heist element, and you'd still have. I think people would like it better.
I don't know. See, I'm of the opinion that if you do like 3 in a row, like that are all heist movies, then maybe that's like not changing it up enough,
Oceans 11, 12, and 13 were all heist movies.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing is they're not doing superhero movies. They don't sit down to do superhero movies. They sit down to do whatever type of genre they think will fit that character. DC, for most of the DCEU, tried to make superhero movies. They were very cookie cutter. They tried to push together characters that weren't ready to go together yet. The fact is that Thor went through multiple genres. The first one was definitely fantasy. The second one, was probably a little more dark fantasy.
Definitely, yes.
Where the third one became more of a space opera in a lot of ways.
Well, almost a comedy, almost.
Yeah. And the fourth one was a space opera as well, but much more comedy as well. So that's my point, is that I think the reason Marvel has been successful is because they're not trying to make superhero movies. They're not following some non-existent checklist for a superhero movie where I think DC is, or at least they were. I think, that's why, Wonder Woman and Aquaman and all this stuff, they would tweak things here and there. Oh, it needs more comedy. It needs more this, more that. But the basic elements are all the same.
Yeah. Okay, in your opinion, is there such a thing as a superhero movie? And if so, can you name one?
No. Well,
Superman the movie.
Superman the movie was probably as close to a straightforward superhero movie.
I would say
But
so.
again, I think it's an adventure movie about an alien. Is Superman a superhero? He's an alien from another planet who has powers because he's on this planet. Now, he decides to use it as a superhero,
Okay.
but,
Okay, the 1966 Batman feature film is a superhero movie, right? No, it's about a millionaire who runs around.
It's a comedy.
No, it's not a comedy. It's not.
You're telling me a man running
elements.
around with a bomb over his head, labeled bomb.
I know, it's not a comedy. No, that one I will fight you on. It's not. It's like the show cannot be labeled a comedy. The movie
have
can
to label the show comedy.
No, it's not.
It's so
it has
silly.
funny things in it, but it is not. You should watch like the first season or the first half of the first season. It's not a
I've
comedy.
watched all of them.
Now I will fight you. I was starting to subscribe to your theory, but now I will fight you.
If you want to
Come on, so there's no superhero movies at all. What about Green Lantern? No, Green Lantern was a science fiction film, sort of.
Yeah, because if you take out the fact that they call themselves superheroes, it becomes the other genre that it really is.
Okay.
And if you take it out of like Aquaman is kind of a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I get it because if there's anything that I don't like about the Marvel movies, it's that in the end they have moved away from the idea of what a superhero is, and they have made it these other things. They leave just enough, to make it be that character, but they still shy away from a code names or the idea of wearing a mask or having a secret identity. I remember the day I realized that out of all of the Marvel movies, one character hides his identity, literally one, and then I thought, okay, but yeah, does that sort of reflect the comics? And it's like, yeah, I guess it does. The modern comics. I'm sure there's probably some other Marvel character that hides his identity, but
before Marvel did that, DC did it with the CW. They didn't make it where everybody in the public knew, but they stopped the whole secret identity thing because that always makes for the most awkward moments in comics and television, as your hero suddenly has to lie to the person they love. And it just seems so out of character.
Well, you can I don't see where you can get around that. I mean, the Flash, when I was growing up, the Flash was married, and his wife knew, that he was the Flash, and that's all that mattered, I see. Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. The idea of secret identities and the cutting away of different things that make a superhero, and then really what are we left with? And all it really is it's just that we can't say we're serious about these movies unless you get rid of this childish stuff in it. I think we could all just agree that it's okay to have such a thing as a secret identity. It's a part of superheroes that I still love, and it's whittled away every day. And Batman is a good example of that. It's, what's going on right at this moment in Batman comics is like every freaking character knows, who he is, and it bugs the heck out of me.
Well, Jim asks, to expand on what Jim was saying, why was it such a horrible thing for the world to know who Spider-Man was then? They know who everyone else is. And the reason is, and I think it's very simple, it comes down to the fact that majority of these characters that have superhero abilities were Avengers or military or part of
Yeah.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So their coming out makes sense.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is a 16-year-old boy.
It's who he is.
He's 18 in the third movie.
Yeah, it's his social status,
Right.
too.
If something bad happens to Iron Man, you can sue Stark. Or if something bad happens because of Iron Man, you can sue Stark Enterprises or whatever. With Spider-Man, he's just a kid from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So plus, like I said, he's
well, like in the movies, Pepper has a position where she can defend herself from somebody trying to gain revenge on Stark, right. And then you get to, Spider-Man, and unless you're going to take Aunt May and lock her away from somewhere, all the time, he needs to maintain his secret identity.
Yep. Actually, the one that doesn't make sense is Falcon, the new Captain America. His identity is known, and his sister would be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, which Falcon? The new Falcon? The second?
Anthony Mackie.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right with that one. That's very interesting. Because we're talking about a social status. Yeah, and she is vulnerable. That's very interesting.
Yep.
Well, therein lies the tale.
Right. But okay, so go back to my main hypothesis is that Marvel success comes from them focusing on the elements that make a good particular type of genre movie, and it's also what has made the Batman successful, because Matt Reeves didn't try to make a Batman movie or a superhero movie. He made a film noir detective, where these other movies are all about the spectacle and the superhuman ability. Look at The Flash or the recent Shazam sequel. Why are these movies doing as poorly as they are? Even Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it really did become more about the spectacle and less about telling a certain type of story.
Okay, so there is criticism and this thing about we're all so tired of superhero movies, and I'll use that loosely, superhero movies. So would you say The Batman is an actual conscious decision to try to move away from the superhero movie fatigue that we're supposedly experience, all of us are suddenly experiencing?
Was it a conscious decision by DC? No, I don't think DC knew what the hell they were doing.
Okay.
I don't think they've known what they were doing for many, many years. Basically they would go with wherever the wind blew.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to be more serious. Oh, we need to be more comical. Oh, we need this. We need more flash. We need more spectacle. Oh, we need smaller budget, lower film.
Yeah.
They haven't known what they were doing for a long time. I'm hoping that James Gunn rights that ship.
How does The Batman operate in that movie? He's a vigilante.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, he's going out on purpose to find crime and stop it.
And he's definitely not a hero in the beginning.
Well, okay, then I'm assuming he's doing it for what reason then, if he's not a hero?
He's trying to clean up the city, but he's extremely violent about it.
Okay, I mean, there's been violent superheroes before. I
Right.
get, I
He's
get
a
what you're saying.
vigilante.
Okay,
Yeah, he's a vigilante in the beginning. He starts to become a hero by the end.
okay. How do they address the identity, the secret identity thing in the movie then?
He has a secret identity.
Okay, and there's is there any part of the movie that like involves that question at all? Or I mean, how do they deal with it? Do they deal with it straight on, or they just say no? He has a mask on. Nobody knows.
There is somebody who he thinks figures it out,
Okay.
and it becomes to the point where he thinks he's done. That once
Oh,
it
okay.
comes
So it
out,
does address it then. Okay.
yes, it
Okay.
is addressed.
Uh-huh.
He is working with Gordon in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
but Gordon just knows him as the Batman, or as yeah.
Does Gordon know Bruce Wayne?
There is so little Bruce Wayne in the movie
Okay.
that there's only one scene where he and Gordon are in it as him as Bruce Wayne, and everybody in the town knows who Bruce Wayne is.
Okay.
So it's not a matter. It is not clear whether they know each other or not, other than
Okay.
the funeral scene exactly.
That would be rough for me because I do like a fair amount of Bruce Wayne in a Batman, production. I like to see that the one played off the other.
There is other Bruce Wayne moments.
Okay.
Most of them take place between him and Alfred.
Okay. Sure.
And those are very good scenes. Andy Serkis is a great Alfred. And they're done very well. And then there's also a scene with Bruce and Carmine Falcone.
Okay. Again, I will probably watch it at some point, but it's going to be one of those moments where like I'm not doing anything else and somehow I go, "Oh, yeah, I'll watch the Batman." That's what will happen.
Now, one of the things we don't have in the movie, which I don't miss because it's a part of the mythos I don't particularly like, and that is the pretend foppish playboy. He's really been kind of out of society.
Mm-hmm.
He's known as more of a recluse.
Mm-hmm.
They know he's there, but he doesn't do much. So when he does show up, everybody's like, "Oh my God, Bruce Wayne's here."
Well, when I first saw Bruce Wayne in like the trailers or whatever, I realized immediately that it was going to be a different take because he's not, a handsome debonair playboy in a tuxedo with with starlets on his arm or anything, and that was sort of one of the things that helped me decide that I didn't care to go and see it. That I could tell from that little bit that it wasn't really the way I would do it, or a portrayal that I was going to be terribly happy with. He looked more like he was a homeless person. What little I saw than he was, well, like you say, a recluse. Okay, are they doing it as like a Howard Hughes type of thing?
A little bit, yes.
Okay, interesting. I mean, it's a take, and I suppose it's a valid one, too. That
I look back at the Batman Year 1 and Year 2 that Miller and Mazzucchelli did.
Yeah.
And there he didn't do the foppish playboy thing until later.
Yep.
And
because he's learning, he realizes that could be helpful, and especially when you get to the point where people are like, okay, who is Batman? Well, he's got to have money because he's got all this stuff and he's got to have this and that. And then you start to, and then you go, no, Bruce Wayne is like a stupid playboy. Like, no way.
Yeah. So to me, I think that stuff is still potentially in front of us.
Yeah.
it's like he doesn't even call himself Batman. There's a moment where somebody goes, "Who are you?" And he just looks at me and goes, "Vengeance."
Yeah. The
And they
famous.
even, and some people actually call him Mr. Vengeance at some points.
Hmm.
And, and he doesn't become Batman until the end of the movie. He
But
becomes,
he has a bat motif though, right?
I know.
Okay. No. What I'm saying is, isn't that right? It's like, okay. Is there some explanation given as to why, of all the things in the world, he's dressing like a bat?
No, because they're kind of assuming that you know the origin story of Batman.
Okay, and in a way, I'm glad, because I remember when that movie was coming out, people were saying, "Oh God, we have to sit through the origin again." And then I think I
Right.
heard it's like, no, he's already been this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There is an interesting novel tie-in that I read for the Batman movie that takes place prior to
Huh.
the uh, um, the movie. That it's actually pretty interesting. I enjoyed it. It deals with some of the Riddler's prehistory, and also stuff like why Batman's car looks like it does in the movie.
What was this called? I don't think I even knew this existed.
Give me a sec. I will look it up while you keep talking.
Okay. Going back to like what we were talking about as far as like the superhero genre, even though you say that there isn't one, the farther Batman gets pulled out of that genre, it gets rougher and rougher for me. And it's funny because I acknowledge that he has the pulp character within him. He has the noir character within him. I know he's those things, and that's attractive to filmmakers these days. I go back to what I said is we've gone so far into the darkness. There's a funny meme that when that movie first came out, that it showed like, Batman in the 40s, and then it went all the way through all the film Batman incarnations, but the image kept getting darker and darker until then it finally like said 2025. It was joking because that meme was out in 2022 or whatever it was, and it was completely black. That last one, you couldn't see anything in it whatsoever. This is the point where I say bring the adventure back into the character and have something a little more like an Indiana Jones vibe. And I don't mean make an Indiana Jones movie that happens to have Batman in it, but bring some of that thrill, bring some of that pulp sensibility back into it, but not necessarily the shadow part of the pulp genre, but a little more Doc Savage maybe into it.
So the book was written by David Lumen.
And
it's called Before the Batman, an original movie novel.
Wow. Okay, listen. This is the status these days, and this is way off topic. I'm sorry. Of tie-in merchandise, tie-in novels and things like that. Like there's barely any novelizations anymore of movies where there was a time where it was like every single movie had a novelization, but not having. Wow, I didn't even know that existed, and I'm up on tie-in stuff, and I like tie-in stuff. But that must have been way under the radar.
I was looking on Audible because I listen to books instead of read them. And I put in Batman, just looking for any kind of Batman story, and came across that. I'm like, I didn't know there was a tie-in, so I downloaded it. And it's not a long book, but it is really it will make you want to watch the movie.
Okay.
Because it really does establish Bruce Wayne. It's him, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And it establishes Edward Nygma, or Edward Nashton is what they call him in that.
Don't get me going on that. Don't get me going on that.
He had both the names in the comics.
Yeah, but he was Nygma for a long time before somebody decided it was silly,
But he was Nashton first.
No, he was the very first story he was Enigma. The very
Okay.
first, yeah, 49.
Well,
No, Nashton came along way, way later. No, he was
look,
Edward
you don't
Nygma through
know
the
how many
70s.
times I turn to Lisa and I say, "Hey, there's a new Marvel character, a DC character coming out. Oh, what's it called? Blue Beetle." Really? Yeah, that's a silly name. And all the 60s names and stuff. Modern day audiences who didn't grow up on these names have some issues with some of these names.
I get it. I get it. I get it. But you know what's funny to me is people who go see, and you'll forgive this label, a superhero movie, and then but who don't like the things that come along with a superhero, movie.
Right.
And I get it. And I have to step out of myself and remember they have to sell tickets to millions of people who don't read comic books and maybe never even liked comic books. They're gonna go because it has Robert Downey Jr. in it, or whoever, Chris Evans,
Right.
and I totally get that. But the lifelong comic fan within me is shedding a tear for the death of superheroes, that we're removing all these things.
Yeah. There's a reason why the only Green Hornet movie we've gotten in a very long time was that piece of crap that Seth Rogen pumped out.
Yeah, because they looked at it and said, "There's no way this could be anything but a comedy," which is,
Yeah.
no. Well, you know what? They should not have called that movie The Batman. They should have just called it The Vigilante.
Yes. But
But they have to because there's an association with that name.
yeah.
I'm surprised they can make a Superman movie and not have people go, "Superman? Is that really his name?"
But see, that's the thing is that Batman and Superman have grown outside of the comics
Hmm.
and have become some of the most recognizable characters
Yeah,
in the world
yeah.
and have become accepted and stuff like that. But if you were trying to pitch them now,
Hmm.
because you take, some of these characters now and you put the names out there,
Yeah.
you know,
It's to me, you don't go, okay, forget being a comic book fan. You don't go to a Superman movie and not expect that he's gonna have this costume on and people are
right.
gonna call him Superman, and he flies and is super strong and probably shoots beams out of his eyes. You don't do it. You go to it and you don't laugh at those things, which is, that goes to that whole thing about wearing trunks that just inflames me like nothing else
Yes, but also,
does. It's like it's don't, stop worrying about it. You know damn well it's a superhero thing. um if anybody could bring back the superhero movie, if you'll pardon those words or whatever, it's James Gunn. Like, with this Superman movie that's being made right now, I really feel like maybe we can have an adventure film again that happens to have a guy in a costume in it.
but I want to go back to one of the most popular incarnations of Superman, and it went for 10 years, Smallville. And what was the one order that they
Yeah.
got when they started making the series?
Yep.
No flights, no tights.
Yep. Yep. And that's okay, because they took something that in the old days might have happened between panels or in just a couple panels and said, there's the story we want to tell. It's right there. Well, look
Right.
at Gotham. Gotham, was the same way
Yep.
for the
And then
most
they
part.
went, to hell with it, we're going to get canceled, let's go crazy.
Let's
And
go
they brought
crazy.
in Mr. Freeze
Yeah.
and all these other
Yeah.
insane
Yeah, I get it. The Mad
characters.
Hatter and all of that stuff, and
Yeah.
and I get that. I mean, I hope that it never goes away. Marvel has made what they're doing palatable to me by retaining the origins, retaining the character names for the most part, having a look that is as much like what they can derive from the comics as possible in our modern society.
Yeah.
No, they're not really superhero movies when you step back, and I have realized that, but I still really enjoy them because I can still see the characters that I know within those movies.
Yeah. But even when you look at comic books, they're rarely ever just superhero comics. Each one has its own tone.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Green Lanterns has always been a sci-fi series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Batman has always been a detective series.
Well,
Superman is an adventure series. You could get the same thing doing a Hercules movie with Superman. They're very similar.
very
Wonder
much.
Woman, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're Jesus stories. Hercules is, he had a god as a father, and he was sent to, Earth.
Yep. Yeah, and Superman came to Earth with the powers of a god.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So again, I don't necessarily think that you can sit down and say these are the elements of a superhero movie.
Okay, I agree. I'll have to agree. Yes. Yep. I agree with that.
Because I can do that for a gangster movie. I just did it. I could do that for a film noir. I just did it.
Mm-hmm.
You look up any type of movie, they're gonna, the difference between high fantasy and low fantasy. That's definable. High fantasy, you're living in a world where everything is normal. The magic and stuff is all part of this unique world.
Mm-hmm.
Low fantasy is it's a normal world with these elements suddenly in it or hidden. So, you can't really do that with superhero movies because you can't go through and look at them and, is Brightburn a superhero movie? I mean, it's basically what if Superman as a kid went bad?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not a superhero movie.
What was that one with what they called it a superhero movie? It was with Bruce Willis.
Oh,
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is that a superhero movie?
See, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, I'm just asking. I don't really.
But then I'm under the impression that there aren't superhero movies.
Yeah.
As a genre.
Why do you think it started to become called a superhero movie?
Because they're superhero
powers.
Huh? Well, I think partly because. Well, why is that one?
Yeah.
Because there are comics in it. There are elements. There's a villain.
Okay.
So it does have some of the elements, but it's the same elements you would get if, it's just without a cape and a costume.
Yeah. So you don't think it's possible to make a superhero movie?
I don't think that there is a superhero genre.
Okay, we're all the way back to the beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is James Bond a superhero movie? No.
Okay.
James Bond is a spy thriller.
I think by saying that you're accepting the idea that that a superhero is a thing. I mean, you're not arguing that there's not even such a thing as a superhero, right? No. Okay.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are superheroes, and you could take all the superhero movies and lump them together, but it would be as efficient as lumping all police movies together, all cowboy movies together. Look at Silverado and Unforgiven are very different Westerns. But if you want to throw another Western in there that's very different, Mandalorian is a Western.
Yeah, very much so. Well,
yeah. So, again.
Yeah. To answer Eddie's question, no, James Bond is not a superhero in my book.
Right.
Not at all. I have personal rules for what makes a superhero, and he is definitely, he's a hero, but he's not a superhero.
Right. Would Punisher be a superhero?
That's a tough one, and that's a really hard one. In some ways, yes, because he does have a larger than life persona with a look and a code name, and he does go out to stop crime. So it kind of fits in my definition, although my part of my definition is that you can rise above killing.
Right. But
you
how
know
different is Punisher from, say, John Wick compared to Punisher and Spider-Man?
because I would say John Wick, he again, he does not have a larger than life persona, a
He
created larger
he
than life
has
persona,
he
and he's
has another name. He has a code name, Baba Yaga. He has an outfit he always wears,
mhm,
that suit. He has that look.
yeah,
So I think he's as close to the Punisher. He's closer to the Punisher than
yeah.
the Punisher is to Spider-Man.
I don't know enough about John Wick. Is he an independent agent or does he work for somebody?
Um, that's really a tricky question.
Okay, then let's not go into
He's a
that.
gun for hire, basically.
Listen, this
But,
whole
but
evening has made
in the movies, he's on his own. He's getting revenge for the
okay.
death.
Yeah, no, then I wouldn't. He's not a superhero.
But
I want you to know that this.
Punisher is going after the people that killed his family. John Wick is going after the people that killed his dog, which was the gift that his dying wife gave him.
Yeah, but the Punisher is past the revenge, the specific revenge thing. He's more like Batman now, where like Batman is not specifically, uh, gaining justice for the death of his parents. It's become a mission, a larger mission because of that, and that's kind of like how the Punisher is.
Okay, to
This
answer,
entire this entire talk has made me very nervous. I just want you to know, I'm like,
the difference between Batman and James Bond is that James Bond works for an agency, is
yes,
given assignments, and
yes,
they tend to be covert spy assignments that are on a global basis.
yeah,
Batman is a figure that, or a person who is focused on protecting a single area of a city, and his responsibility is only to his code of ethics and to his city. His
yeah.
mode to get
Yeah.
protect his city.
And he's
Um,
created a larger than a persona beyond who he
right.
really is, to be able to to impact other people
Now,
with
that's
that.
not that's not to say that he's that far away from James Bond, because if you merge James Bond and Batman, you get Ninjak from Valiant.
I would say there's an element of James Bond within Batman that I'll go
Yeah,
so far as
but
saying that.
literally, if you take those two characters, merge them into one character, you get the character of Ninjak from
Mhm.
Valiant. He
Okay.
wears a costume. He's got all these training and stuff, but
Mhm.
he does work for a British secret agency. And Ninjak is Valiant's version of Batman.
Okay.
And he's got the rich family and the orphan stuff. It says, I meant superhero wise. Batman is high tech, Bond is tech. True. Batman has an alias, Bond has an alias. Batman fights, Bond fights. Yeah,
Wait, what's James Bond's alias?
007.
Huh?
007.
No, that's yeah, I we don't have enough time for me to argue this one, but no, I don't agree.
I
Yeah,
used
James
to
Bond
think,
is and James Bond can be amoral at times,
yeah,
and I would say Batman is not. Batman does have a moral code.
yeah. You know, up until Skyfall, I always thought the best move would have them for them to say that not only was it 007, but the name James Bond went with the 007, and he wasn't Bond until he got that job.
Mm-hmm.
He had but then they tied into his family history and stuff in Skyfall. But I actually had a discussion with Philip Kennedy Johnson, the guy that up until recently was writing Bond for Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
This was between the first series he did and the second. Now it's Garth Ennis. But and we talked about that, and I told him about that. He goes, I thought that would have been the good thing too. That really is how it should have been. That way, the fact that you've had multiple actors as James Bond suddenly makes sense. They're just different agents who took over the role.
Well, then we're going to go all the way back to the 1967 Casino Royale film because
Nobody
that's
counts Casino Royale.
that's the no because that's the premise of that movie.
They only
That's
count
the premise of that movie is that there's many different James Bonds.
Yes, but they only count the movies created by the Broccoli family, the Coley family.
I know, but
That's
I'm
why they
saying
don't count Never Say Never Again either.
I'm saying that movie, has that element in it.
So,
all
right. Well, we filled up another hour plus. God only knows what we'll be talking about next week.
I hope it's something that makes me less nervous. Jeez.
Why does this make you so nervous?
Because it's going at the very heart of my beliefs, in my fandom beliefs, my interest in superheroes and all of that. I mean, I in my mind I have a very clear idea of what that is. And it's not only the taking it apart, but like I said, it's the leeching away of it over the years that has disturbed me, because that idea of a superhero, what I consider to be superhero, is piece by piece is going away.
Well, if you go back to the original Marvel books, 2 of the original Marvel books were basically them just doing monster stories, continuing, because that's what they were doing.
Fantastic Four. Although the original idea of the Fantastic Four was to go without costumes and names, and then they what is it? The third, I think it's issue number 3. They're like Stan's like, oh, I think we need to make these like superheroes. It'll be more palatable at that time. Yep.
Yeah, that's why they fought the Mole Man in issue 1.
Yep. And you know what? That's probably how the movie is going to be.
Yeah.
That
I would hope so.
Yeah.
In the whole
they have to have a big 4 in their chest. Come on. They have to have those names. I can't wait to see how they deal with the name Mr. Fantastic. I cannot wait to hear how they do it.
Oh, there's got to be a rip about him being egotistical.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what they'll do. And that's the beauty of Marvel, is they throw it in there, they make a little bit of fun about it, and they move on.
Yeah, or he could just say, well, it's what Sue always calls me. Ed says, these kind of talks are fun. You blew me out of the water with the porn story at the beginning. Haven't laughed that hard in a while. Have a great weekend. Well, thank you, Ed. Glad you liked it.
He is risen.
I've got a lot of odd stories. I should probably tell more of them.
I think you should write a book, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you guys again. I hope you all had a good Easter. We did up a ham and veggies and stuff here and had that just before the show. So it was very tasty dinner. Jim, I hope you had a good Easter.
Thanks, you too.
I will see you guys all next week. I'll be doing my show, News on Tuesday, live show on Thursday. Don't know what the topic is yet. And then Jim and I will be back on Sunday. So have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Take care.